Well, you notice anything different? Good morning, by the way. I want you to imagine some scaffolding on wheels. And I want you to imagine that little platform with a ladder on top of that. Now picture yourself climbing up and drilling holes and hanging that. And then picture yourself arranging all of this with a third person sitting down there saying, no, move that over that way. Which was me. I want to introduce you to the two people who did that. Our hearts are so filled this morning with gratitude for Dar West, stand up, and Armando Calvillo. And I'm just thrilled with the result. Well, I was the one, making all the trouble down there. So, do you like it? Yeah, it's new, it's different, but it feels like it's been there forever for me. So, good. Someone in the congregation bought my office a new computer, and it was installed yesterday, and it came with all kinds of nice things on it. And it made me think of the phrase fully loaded. You and I come fully loaded. When we're born, we're fully loaded with everything that Spirit is, love and joy and peace and vitality and creativity and intelligence. And our life is meant to be an example of what those qualities can become in human experience. Through our choice, through our belief, through our actions. One of the great gifts of Spirit is imagination. Einstein said it was more important than knowledge. And the reason for that is that knowledge is always based on what we already know, what we see out there, or history. But imagination has nothing to do with any of that. Imagination delves into the realm of the possible, the not yet known. Not the unknown, but the not yet known. So we have to ask ourselves, are we underutilizing it? Or why do we have it? Why is it that when you're sick, you can imagine being well? When you're struggling with money, you can imagine wealth. How many this week picture themselves winning that lottery? Yeah, mind-boggling. We can imagine a better world for all people, even with all the injustices that we see on the news, right? Why do we have this faculty of imagination? Because we are meant to create the future. That's why we have it. I'm going to give you a quote today by Rainer Maria Rilke, who was a German novelist and poet, and he wrote some really pithy things. You might want to write this one down. When I first heard this, I almost jumped out of my shoes. He said, "The future enters into us in order to be transformed by us long before it happens in the world." Whew. I will. I've been reciting it all week to myself because it's profound. The future enters into us to be transformed by us long before it enters the world. What does that mean? How can we transform the future? Well, the future is an idea. The future is a possibility. The future is something we imagine. And it could be anything because we're dealing with an infinite field, a potential field of infinite possibilities. The quantum field of infinite potentialities that Deepak Chopra talks about all the time. In spirituality, we talk about spirit, the qualities of spirit. So what does it take to transform an idea into something that becomes an actual experience? I want to talk about another gift today, and that's the gift of passion. Passion is something we absolutely must have in conjunction with a great idea. Otherwise, the great idea just remains in the idea stage, but passion helps to bring it forward. So passion is the through line in the creative process. You get an idea, you want something to happen, you see it for yourself or for the world, but there has to be an energy force, life force in it. How do we transform that inside of ourselves? Very simply, by putting I am in front of it. The idea gets transformed by us with our passion for it as an aspect of our own nature. So, which is the little song we sang, it's in every one of us. Everything we could ever possibly desire for humanity is in every one of us right now as a potential, right? And so we bring it forward by identifying ourselves as its vehicle, if you will. As the title of my book, The Way In for something that you desire to have happen. So I think it's fair to say that Spirit is passionate about being you. I mean, passion brought us all into this experience, and not just your parents' passion, which we don't even want. I don't want that picture in my head. Go away. Passion is essential to health, happiness, creative self-expression. When our lives have become routine and predictable, don't you feel like you've been robbed of something vital? You feel like you've been ripped off. You feel like you just missed the boat. Somehow you're out of what is going on in the universe. You know that feeling? When it's just routine, it's just over and over the same thing. It's because we have, let's say, buried our own passion. We've set it aside. I don't need that. I'm doing fine. You know? As a culture, we've suffered from that, though. We've definitely suffered as a culture by not allowing ourselves to be fully alive, engaged with nature, engaged with each other more, different cultures, different kinds of backgrounds, and all of the diversity that brings so much richness into life. Sometimes we just repeat. We see the same people, we have the same friends, we tell everybody the same jokes. I'm guilty of that. And we do the same thing over and over, you know? Go to work, go to Trader Joe's, go home. Go to work, go to Trader Joe's, go home. It's so easy to get in those kinds of ruts, and we forget about the power of the mind to imagine what we could be, what could happen, what we have a right to experience in our life. Remember Joseph Campbell, who Bill Moyers interviewed 30 years ago, the great mythologist? Well, Joe asked him about, he said, aren't people seeking the meaning of life? And he said, I don't think people are seeking the meaning of life. He says, I think what we are all seeking is the rapture of being alive. Do you remember feeling that when you were 3 years old? I do. The rapture of being alive. I want you to say something out loud. We may have done this before. I'm not sure. But it's a good one. And it's funny, because for adults, they go, are you kidding me? But try this. I love being me. I love being me. Now, try this one. God loves being me. God loves being me. And if that's true, why would it? I mean, do you ever take God dancing, or how much fun? I have a friend, Pat Campbell, who took my place in Calgary, wrote a book called Give God a Good Time. And because if Spirit is being us, if the universe if the wave has collapsed into the particle, which we are the particular, if Spirit has individualized itself, personified itself as us, it did it for a reason. To experience the fullness of humanity and to experience the rapture of being alive in the physical body. Are we giving ourselves the opportunity to feel that same way as we did when we were children? And that's, it has a lot to do with just having fun in the moment, no matter what's going on, engaging with people in a way that's fun for everybody. So we develop kind of a passion for the divine. And I think most people in this room who are attracted to this teaching have had that. And we all come from some other upbringing as far as religion goes. Some of us didn't have any, but a lot of people did. But we shared that desire to feel the presence, the rapture of being alive, knowing that Spirit, God, whatever you want to call it, is right where we are. And that's what we're seeking. And that's what a religion was meant to give us. It was meant to give us tools to stay in tune with the infinite while we live in a finite experience of apparent limitation. Religion was to help us see through the veil of illusion into the greater reality. And it occurred to me this week that that's exactly what science is meant to do. You know, Ernest Holmes, the founder of this teaching, said the day will come when science and spirituality will walk hand in hand, and that day is here, thankfully. So what we have available to us right now within ourselves is, since if God is being us now, let's just take this a step further. Can we think as God would think about us? If God were separate and could look at you, what would she say? Or it? Come on, folks, lighten up. She would say, "This is my beloved in whom I'm well pleased." Yes? That's the promise. This is my beloved in whom I am well pleased. Each one of us, every single individual on this planet, regardless of race, religion, background, color, sex, lifestyle, it doesn't matter. This is my beloved in whom I am well pleased. Meister Eckhart, the great mystic of the 11th century, said, God is forever begetting the only begotten. And that's us. That's each one of us. So we have an inherent passion for being that we had as children. But we want to see if we can't identify it. I'm going to ask you right now to take a little personal inventory. What is your PQ right now? What is your passion quotient in your life right now on a scale of 1 to 10? And don't confuse it with longing, because longing can feel like passion. Oh, I want that so much. That's not the same thing. You may think you're passionate about wanting something, but if you were really passionate about it, your feet would be moving in some direction to attain it or to become part of it. Because passion activates the body. Don't think about mom and dad again. You know, this is a very deep subject, so I try to lighten it up occasionally. It's challenging to the local mind, to the ego. It's challenging because it's very different from what we've been taught as children and growing up in this country. So our passion quotient, can you think of anything? Can you remember what it felt like to have it when you were little or younger? I was thinking last night about when I was 4 years old in kindergarten. We lived at the bottom of a very long street, probably a couple blocks long. And there was a boulevard at the top and then the school. So us little 4-year-olds would walk to school and walk home, which is kind of amazing when you think about it now. But on the way home, we've discovered this mailbox that was completely covered in ivy. It must have been growing there for 20 years. Thick ivy. And I told my mother about it, and my mother was a little magical. In fact, when I said to her one time when I was about 3 or 4, I see lights in the garden, she said, oh, it must be the fairies. And that's all she said. Isn't that wonderful? Yeah, so she said, oh, there's a story about a golden egg being hidden in the forest. Maybe the golden egg is in there. Well, you know, mystical, magical little kid like all of us were. My friends and I spent the next year, every single day after school, we'd stop there and plow through it and try to find the magic egg, the golden egg. We knew it was in there, right? We never gave up. We never lost our passion for it. We imagined it in there, and we never found it, of course, but it wasn't about finding it. This isn't about getting anything. It's about discovering the power within us to imagine. It's about discovering the joy of being. It's about discovering our heart and our playful child self inside. And as adults, we want to keep doing that because that's what makes life so sweet, is that magical aspect to living that comes through the field of imagination, the rapture of being alive. So this is really creative energy when we stir that up in ourselves. I think about little kids, they're always creating. Let's do this, let's put on a show, let's make this. And that's part of the joy of being, is to be creative, is to change things and make things happen in a new way, stir things up so that the heart starts to open, the mind starts opening, your ego gets involved or your higher self gets involved. Everything starts firing on all cylinders, right? But if we're just repeating and doing everything the same way all the time, the same friends, the same food, the same everything, we're existing. We're surviving, but we're not thriving. So we want to move out of survival into thrival, right? Okay, glad you're with me on that one. Ernest Holmes said, spirit pours itself lavishly and relentlessly into the mold of our consciousness. It is new thoughts that give new outlets for spirit to pour itself into. So we make a demand upon it. And passion is a kind of a demand. You know, in quantum physics, they're talking about, and here, just let me preface that by saying, in our teaching, we talk about God as formless, changeless, birthless, deathless. It appears in form, it appears to change, it appears to live and die, but it never does itself, right? Just the form does, okay. So the quantum physics is telling us that this field of all potentialities is like a wave. We could call God a wave. And the wave sometimes, depending on how it's interacted with, collapses into a particle. Now think about this as far as you being a particularization of spirit. That the wave, God, has collapsed into you, more or less. That it is being you in the particular that it might fully express all that it is by means of you. If we can have a passion for that sense of who we are, we could actually probably do anything because we're not working with obstacles or overcoming anything. We are allowing life to come through us. This is about allowing. What wants to happen next? What can I get passionate about? What can I imagine for myself? So let's go back to the passion quotient. I want really this week, really think about this. And you know, you don't have to start with big. It can just be a passion for maybe trying a new cuisine, a passion for your garden. Maybe you used to have one, now you don't, and you'd like to. The point of this is put something in mind and get it whipped up about it, imagine it, see it happening. See your garden, if that's what it is, fully alive and blooming and vines climbing and trees swaying. And notice what happens to you. That suddenly you're more alive. You begin to participate in the idea. Maybe you go to the garden store, you plant a tree, or you get involved in a community garden, which is a wonderful thing to do. Or maybe you plant food. It could be anything. It could be painting your house, painting the inside, changing the colors, adding something. It's newness. It's aliveness. It's good. So you don't have to start with changing the world, is what I'm saying. But begin to use the imagination in ways you haven't done lately. And realize this is a gift. This is a tool. This is the future trying to happen. And it happens by means of each one of us. So the birthing place of a new idea, as Holmes said, is always in awareness or consciousness. And the fertile ground for new ideas is always spirit charged. We could say passion infused, because there's the life force that responds to our passionate ideas and turns them into something and begins to move them forward through us. It sparks our imagination even, and our imagination sparks it. So it's like fuel. The car needs fuel, your body needs fuel, but so does the creative process. So does your heart and your soul and your spirit. It needs fuel. It needs to feel that it is in harmony and partnership with a great power, a great unseen, invisible power, that we're walking hand in hand with it. So passion directs spiritual energy, and it makes a demand. You know, making a demand on God is not something you hear in most churches. And it even makes New Thought people uncomfortable. But it shouldn't. It's not demanding something as much as, you know, Stuart Grayson, who was a great minister in New York for years, he wrote a book called the 10 Commandments. And yeah, it's great because it's true, because every time I start talking to this, I think, man, we just got to get over this superstitious stuff about God. It's going to punish us. It's going to smite us down. It's going to do whatever. No, life is for us and never against us. And it's so constructed to be creative all the time through that which it creates. And so you cannot outgive God, and you can't ask for too much. But there are always consequences to what we do, but they're not punishments. It's just a result of our actions. So you don't have to promise God that you'll give to the poor. I'm serious. I'm not being facetious. It's a nice thing to do. I do it myself. But God doesn't care what you do with it, because it's being you, right? It's let's be prosperous together. Let's do this. Let's create. Let's travel. Let's see the world. Let's start a garden. He doesn't care. He'll do anything. So if God could look down on us, it might say, if there's no passion, it might say, well, she doesn't need anything because all she does is go to work, go to Trader Joe's, and watch TV, which is a little close to home right now, actually. I've spent so much time in Trader Joe's because where I lived before I didn't have one, and I just couldn't wait to get here because I love Trader Joe's. But anyway, if you don't make a demand, nothing changes. Nothing happens. And the demand is the passion for something, the passion for prosperity, the passion, because you know all the wonderful things you could do with it, right? But it's not conditional. If there's any definition of unconditional love, there's none better than the law of mind that takes us at our word and produces our word in form. Doesn't care what you do, which it couldn't care because it's a principle. But when you think about it, this guarantees the evolution of our species because it guarantees individual expression. You have to have individual expression in a healthy species. And then in quantum physics, the rest of them will join, like the 100th monkey kind of thing, right? So what 1% does, et cetera. I'm getting off topic, but it's interesting. So our passion is kind of a demand. And let's put it this way. Spirit loves those demands because it's in the business of creating. Okay, so let's think of something this week. Really think about this. What am I passionate about in my life? It's not easy because passion is kind of a big energy and a big word. So we're not talking about what I like or what I care about, but what am I passionate about? I'll tell you what I'm passionate about. I am passionate about this teaching and this center. I am passionate about taking this to the world. I am passionate about involving hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people in this town with this teaching because I know they're out there looking for us. I am passionate about that. I will do everything I can to join with you to make that happen. That's my mission. And I know Spirit put me here to do it. I'll tell you what I was thinking about before I came here. I was thinking about retiring. No, but so this was I may have told you this before. This was my affirmation. Put me where I need to be to do the work I came here to do. And I came here to change the world, and so did you, for the better. We're all bodhisattvas, you know. If you're in this teaching, I guarantee you've been here before. And, you know, it's like when we were with the Dalai Lama and we were with all the Tibetans, they said, because it's very few people who actually get in his presence. If you look at the population of the world, and they told us, if you're here, you were Tibetan before. If you have a draw to this is partly in your makeup, okay? So it's the same thing with this teaching. If you're drawn to this teaching, you're not looking for rules and regulations. You're looking for a way to set yourself free, right? You're looking for the rapture of being alive. And we really do have the tools to help us do that. It all begins with imagination, and it begins with realizing that whatever feeds you is necessary to your well-being. Whatever feeds you is necessary to your well-being. Therefore, it deserves a place in your choices. Ask yourself again, okay, what is it I really love that I've been denying myself? When you get older, you stop doing that so much. You think, well, I made it this far, who cares? You know, I'm going to do whatever I want to do. But But you know, when you're younger, it's like, I can't eat that and I shouldn't go then and that. Wait a minute. If you do it with intelligence and with self-love, you won't overdo it. You won't overindulge. It'll all be in balance and moderation because that's what healthy minds do, right? So let's stop eliminating the joy of things in our lives and let's allow ourselves to be fully engaged with it and to have a good time. So today, in your choices today, you need to choose to live some degree of your passion. Make a choice to feed your spirit, and spirit will nourish your dreams. The gift of spirit is in us for a reason. Passion is in us for a reason. I think it's the greatest gift of all. When my grandson was about 2, every time you said anything to him, he'd go, "Oh!" "Oh!" And my friend Jane said, "Oh, he's full of enthusiasm." That's spirit. To be enthused is to be filled with spirit. So I want us to do that. Just go right now and go, "Oh, isn't life great? Oh." And imagine what we can do with it. Let's just imagine what we can do with it. All right, so let's turn within. Just to take these words into our body and our hearts and know that spirit is present right here and right now. That there's one life being all life, not 2 powers, 1 power. 1 power with 1 tendency, and that is to be seen and known through the avenue of what it creates out of itself. That power has no opposition. It is not in conflict with anything. It is simply alive and well and producing again and again and again the only begotten. And that power is here in this room. It's here in each body. It's here in each mind. It is the source of everything that we are. We can never be apart from it, never separate from it. And it does our bidding. And so we allow ourselves in this moment together to just simply remember the joy of being is my natural state. I love being me. God loves being me. My life is a joy to behold. We know that is true for all people everywhere, and we affirm, declare that all are waking up to this beautiful truth, transforming this world into the heaven on earth it was meant to be. And so with great gratitude for this teaching, this place, and each one of us here, we simply say, it is done, and so it is.